Welcome back, everyone, to the Fix My Fees podcast, where we spotlight incredible business owners, leaders across the country. Each episode here is designed to highlight the stories, the wins, and definitely most importantly, the challenges of these entrepreneurs and these leaders to be able to engage in the lessons learned from these people and really to be able to see how they are building real impact in their industries, and not even just in their industries, but also in their community. I will say I'm actually pretty excited to talk to this individual we have on today. My name is Jeffrey Me with your host for Fix My Fees podcast. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Thank you. This is Matt Watson. I own a creative agency on the West Coast called Watson Creative. I've been doing this for about 13 years after I left Nike, and it's just been a dream in so many ways. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate it. And so, Matt, so with everything that you already said, you said that you worked at Nike, you started your own company in the marketing industry. Can you tell us essentially your backstory as to how did you get where you're at right now?
Oh wow. Yeah, it's unplanned for sure. And I don't think I was very intentional about this for years after I was already in it. So I started my career off at Lippincott out in New York. It's a brand firm. They mostly work on like Fortune 100 companies, rebranding them, repositioning them. And then I had a chance after 9/11 to head back west, and I got a job at Nike and spent over 11 years there. And I worked across like branding and campaigns and product and .com. I met with so many athletes. I worked with so many amazingly talented creatives and marketers that I look at the people I worked with, and they're now like the CMOs across multiple professional sports teams or Fortune 100 companies. Like, it's amazing the talent that came out of that place and continues to come out of that place. But in 2012, my wife is having our first child, and my dad was struggling with cancer, and I was going between our European office and the Oregon office every other week for a while, and it just became very evident to me that I needed to step back and stay with family. And so I resigned, and I stayed there for I think 3 more months, just kind of winding things down, and just spent time with my dad. And during that time, one of my friends at Nike, tossed me a contact for a freelance job, and I was like, "Cool, take it, and I'll run with it." My background is in professional services, which is I'm a designer, and I just started working on that one account, and one good job turns into another. And in that first year, they ended up being about $250,000 of revenue into us, which was into me, which was substantial. And every year after that, we had that account for about 7 to 10 years before the master company did something else with the portfolio of that company. But that's kind of like how we started. That's the origin of it, and it wasn't intentional. First of all, I would never name my company after myself. I just bought a URL. I wasn't thinking about anything other than like, hey, I'm going to side hustle. I'll probably end up going back to Nike or Adidas or something like that. And I never really imagined that I'd spend my life doing this and that I would be making such broad impact in the world. Like, we have our logos and our positioning like all over the world in all sorts of different industries. Where I live in Oregon, my kids, as we drive around, get to see our logos up everywhere, and it's pretty cool. Or like campaigns or whatnot, and it's a fun like road game.
I will say that it's really cool how when you talk to individuals and just hearing from yourself that it's sometimes it's the industry or the route that you had no intention on having any type of big fruition out of it. And then all of a sudden it's like you looking back, it's like whoa, like I was just thinking that this was just gonna be literally a little side gig. I'm gonna go back to Nike, and all of a sudden it turns into something really impactful, and you're driving with your kids, you see your logos everywhere. And on top of that, it's like you're building something I feel like a lot more, not saying Nike was bad at all for you, because clearly, you even said that you worked with great people. But the fact is what you're doing now it's just a lot more impactful for, for yourself, for your family, I'm sure for your community as well. And, one thing that I am also really interested in to hear, Matt, with your story and really your come up, and this might be pretty hard to answer, and it's okay. What do you love most about what you do?
Well, that's easy.
Oh, there we go. I like it.
I love the diversity of work that we get to do. And when I worked at Lippincott, it was like, I was working on the merger of Citibank. So Citigroup had been merged with Travelers, largest corporate merge in the world, and I was really on that for a couple of years. And every once in a while, you'd get tossed in with like something crazy, like Chevron bought out Texaco, and they needed a new logo in 3 days to put onto Wall Street, and you're like, cool, all right, I'm going to spend my weekend working on this. But it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing to be sitting there working on how you'd bring together this corporate logo. You've probably never really seen it. It's out there, but that's from the corporate perspective, it's the marriage of those two companies together. But just the diversity work I had there was really cool. And then when you go and you start working on a brand, I'd change jobs at Nike about every 2 years. I'd move to a different category or a different discipline or something like that. So that was as much diversity as I had. And I'd usually get into a job, and after about 6 months, I'd mastered it. And then you're really going deep for the next 18 months, which is good, but it's nothing like running an agency and seeing the level of impact and the insights in the industry. And I think we've cultivated a team of people that love that same idea of like, hey, and one day they're going to be working on a winery. The next day, they're going to be working on a pro sports team. The next day, they're going to be working on a high impact nonprofit. And they don't know what's coming the next day. I don't know what's coming the next day necessarily. I mean, we have the composition of our clientele is diverse, but we don't have like a $20 million account sitting in our agency. We have smaller accounts. They're typically a quarter million to half million annual spend, and they'll work with us for just a rebrand. Sometimes they'll work with us for a rebrand and then campaigns that go on for a long time. But we don't really have that long of a runway or trajectory of what's happening. But we've been around for 13 years. We've been able to make it work, and we have a really strong way of courting the clients that we really want and finding that mixture of work that makes it rich for our team. And I think that cross-pollination of experiences contributes to the work. And I can tell you, when I was working with and working on helping position them as they're moving into their new stadium, Levi's Stadium, and kind of trying to draw that connection back to Candlestick and then like where they're at. We were doing, primary research with core audiences there. And, being from the West Coast, we of course have done a ton of wineries as well. And I found more connection between the consumers of the audiences of the personas of the people who pursue high-end wine as the 49ers than I did thinking about a 49ers fan and, let's say, a Kansas City Chiefs fan. They're completely different. And it just goes to show that it's not necessarily about category experience always. I think people who are working for those companies have that category experience. I think what's really interesting is when they bring along a consultancy that has all these new, deep, rich experiences to challenge the status quo, to bring a different point of view or a different lens to the potential of the possibilities. So if you ask me what I like the diversity of the work that we do. And I really like the clientele that we're able to say yes to and we're able to say no to.
That is awesome. I mean, that's a great answer right there. And, I would say this though, that, you know, you love the diversification of your work. And to kind of take it to a level of, for these young entrepreneurs that are going to be listening to this, would you say that being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, I mean, it doesn't matter what category or what industry you go into, but be prepared for that diversity of work on a like, one day you think it's okay, it's going to be this, but then something else might really come about and you have to take care of that. Or, a new, maybe even there are good problems or even bad problems, but it's like you got to be able to, be agile on what you are working on because it's like this is your business. This
Yeah,
is you're not
yeah.
you're not just simply a employee just clocking in. Like this is your business that you're running. But
The US is in a war. I didn't have that on my Q1 plans, neither did my clients, and we had tons of clients who are like, "Timeout, we're pausing all projects. So sorry, but right now, because this is happening, we're, ratcheting and being conservative," and I applaud that, but it definitely wrecked our Q1 trajectory. We were able to fill in sand, and we had other projects that were happening later in the year. We're able to pull those in and start working on that. And I think that's the beauty of the diversity of work also is a really smart business plan. As one industry, tanks or it goes on, being paused, we're relevant to so many other categories. So that's nice from a stability perspective. But getting back to your kind of original question of I'm sorry, I forgot what the question was.
oh
You
no, no,
got me on
you're
a
okay.
tangent.
Really, but real. So my question more so was like, if running a business, running, your a company,
Right.
you want to be that, yeah, have to be able to pivot, be agile. And so sorry, this is a unscripted podcast. My cat is just going crazy right now.
I was wondering what that was. Yeah, being able to pivot and learning to pivot and learning to dance in the rain and learning to lean into, the forces that are happening out there and being steady
Mhm.
and calculated and emotionally stable and being able to deal with really bad news one day and put on your game face and lean into the positive opportunity that the next day has
Mhm.
is something that I've cultivated over time. I think, you know, in my story, I didn't intend for this to happen. And I think when I go back to the intentionality of it, I didn't have much intentionality the first couple of years. And those were really hard because I didn't understand really how to run a business. I didn't understand the cycles of business and how to deal with that.
Mhm.
And I gained a lot from joining a group EO or entrepreneurial organization. It's a global organization of kind of peer group for CEOs.
Okay.
And I got in there with like coffee companies and ice cream companies and electricians and all these people running businesses are between 1,000,000 and 20,000,000, and we're all dealing with the same issues, all of us. And so when you go back to the idea of like, hey, you may have an idea where your business is going, but you may need to pivot. You definitely want to avoid the squirrel kind of idea where you're just
Mhm.
attracted to the next shiny object. But I think being able to be really thoughtful and well planned for when those opportunities arise, you can lean into them and flex and grow in new ways is really exciting. We're going through some of that stuff right now that's just incredible as far as opportunities, things we're working on that I never ever thought we'd be working on. And I can't even talk about it, which is we're not working on the NASA thing right now, but it's up there. I mean, it's like I see it on the front page of CNN. I'm like, geez, like the impact that we're having right now is just absolutely incredible.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so I won't try to nail you too hard
Don't poke that.
on
Don't poke it. I'm
I
not
won't
going
do
there.
it. But I would actually like to dive more into your business itself. And can you share with us a little bit of challenges that, have been, say it's like a period of just rainy, dark, stormy clouds, or maybe even like periods where, you're taking 5 steps forward, but then all of a sudden it's 10 steps back. What are some challenges that you guys have had maybe within the past 6 to 12 months?
I think I touched on it before. The ones that kind of happened early on was maturing and
Yeah.
dealing with leadership, dealing with the accountability of owning a business, dealing with the emotional impact of anxiety that can happen when you see your P and L and you're like, oh my god, we're running into like a brick wall. I've definitely cut my teeth there, and I feel really good to navigate the ups and downs. Right now, it's nothing but exciting. I think the last 6 to 12 months, the advent of AI obviously has had a massive impact, but for us, no more than from an operational standpoint, it's just been amazing to implement finally a end-to-end system uh, on a project management system that just unites everything and allows us to scale has just been incredible. And we're still continuing to roll it out. And every single day we're looking at it like, oh my gosh, this thing is so amazing in how it can streamline, simplify, reduce confusion, and just get people to stop focusing on how we do business, but focus on the clients and the good quality work. We've enjoyed that. I think there's seasons in businesses as you know, right now we're going through this AI thing and everybody's scaling up and optimizing businesses. You know, if you look at macro trends, for example, you may say, hey, in the 1980s, it was all about lean management, Six Sigma, and that's operational like optimization. In the 2000s, it really became the creative economy where you just saw an explosion of companies gaining growth through creative. And right now, I think we're back into that optimization. Creative still, I mean, that's what we do. So I definitely still obviously believe in that. But the optimization of consumer journeys, the optimization of how people get work done is just absolutely incredible.
Okay, so let me ask you a little bit about AI because you did touch on it. So, you know, especially in the young generation, right? So in the younger generation, younger entrepreneurs, they can absolutely utilize, all the AI tools out there, ChatGPT, Claude, all those AI tools out there. And they can, I'm going to be, I am going to really poke you on this one. So they can do this and they can also be able to, say create their own logos, create their own brand, even create their own, Shopify store or whatever the case may be. Now, let me do ask you this though. How and why would some reach out to you guys to be able to help them with their branding, with their marking their logos essentially, then they could really dive into AI and figure it out themselves.
Yeah, people aren't hiring us for a logo. They're hiring us to reposition their company, improve their culture, and better position them in the market. The output is there is a logo that's definitely there, and there's brand guidelines and all sorts of stuff like that. So they're looking for a couple different things. Number one, I could sit down, I could draw you like 20 different logos for your company, and you'd think like, oh, these are really cool, and there's an opinion there. But if you want something that's objective, that's really solving the communication issue and the positioning issue. It's not the logo necessarily. It's all the work that happens up to that. So the amount of research, the amount of workshops, the uniting and bringing together their C-suite or whatever set of key stakeholders you're working with on a
Mm,
campaign or a product or whatever it might be, there is still, I think, that human need, and then we're transposing that and doing the work. We're definitely using AI to make things more efficient,
of course.
and I think that there's, right now, currently, there's aspects of it that's making it a really good, like, junior writer to help synthesize things down, but it is not at all. If you read some of our senior copywriters' work versus what AI is suggesting, in its like 10th round of being massaged is still not anywhere near the thoughtful nature of what a human is able to do. Will it be there? Probably. I think a lot of the small businesses, AI is a great solution for them to be able to code their own site, get some business cards up and running, and just go into the hustle. But when
Mhm.
you're $100 million, $1 billion, $3 billion company, I think, let's flip it around. Lawyers, you can definitely go and like create a legal document with AI. But
Mhm.
if you had something on the line, you would still hire a lawyer
Yeah,
to
right.
really make sure that things are buttoned down and they understand really the issues you're dealing with and what you're trying to solve. And then they're able to connect the dots. So I think that expertise, that subject matter expert is still going to be important. And I think what's interesting right now is I'm 50 years old. Uh, I think I'm in a sweet spot with AI that unfortunately people who are younger aren't, because I have such a broad and depth of context. When I do use AI, I'm asking different questions. I'm massaging things differently than somebody that is a new entrepreneur or that is young. And that's really unfortunate. I just don't know where entry level positions go because a lot of the entry level work can be done by AI.
That's actually a really good point that you made there that, you know, in the beginning, absolutely, you can use AI, get your first business cards out, get a quick logo or something like that. But then also on top of that, just like what you said, those young entrepreneurs, they could really be trying to only utilize AI and they're not massaging it. They're not asking like really like you say in-depth questions like for example that you are and that can also be essentially misleading to what they think can happen like, oh, I mean, why do I have to hire people? AI, boom, that's it.
Yeah.
um But so with all that being said, man, now going a little bit away from AI, and I like to, I really do love to ask this question because I'm always curious about every business owner that I talk to. So I could call up Joe right down the street, and I could have him do almost the exact same thing that you're doing. But what makes you stand out? What makes your company stand out as to why I would want to reach out to you and really, like you even said, reformat, reposition my company to where it's $100 million company. My goal is to get that to 500 million within, next year or two.
Yeah. I've got a easy answer for that. I mean, if you look at the service level of any creative agency, you're going to be like, oh, cool. They do websites, they do strategy, they do branding, they do content creation. Cool. Let's go with the one that's in close proximity, let's say.
Okay.
If you're looking to hire somebody that's going to be a C-level executive in your company, you're going to be looking at the resume and the experiences that they bring to the table that augment your team the best. And that's where the fingerprint comes in. We're unique. The other company down the street is unique too. It's up to you to decide what is the best fit for communicating your brand and helping position your brand better in the marketplace. Are you going to hire somebody that has, spent time at Livicott, spent time at Nike, has built their own business, has been around for 13 years, has had depth of experience in these categories? Or are you going to spend time with somebody that, possibly left college, started their own agency, and has worked in law firm marketing their entire time? They could be a vertical expert for sure. Are they really going to bring a different point of view to it? Probably not.
That's actually a really good point. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. And I also feel like that, working with, these different agencies, it is very important to look at the resume, to look at the business owner that, I'm about to, essentially get in bed with, right?
Yep.
For this opportunity. And, with all that to be said, Matt, you guys have been around for 13 years. You guys have had, some, of course, in the beginning, right? You think that in your P&L is just, I mean, say, for example, it's just continuously dropping, right? You don't know if, like, I have no idea if this is really going to last another 6 months. And I
Yep.
feel like I
6
feel like
weeks.
or 6 weeks, yeah. So with all of that to be said, and you guys are still here strong, and 13 years, man. Like, again, first of all, kudos to you for being around for 13 years in a industry and a business that you thought you had nothing. Like, I don't know, like maybe I don't know. Like, this is just freelance work. I'm just probably gonna go back to Nike. I want you to be able to really shine on what you are really most excited about and what you guys have accomplished within this past 6 to 12 months, or even like future goals that you want to share with us for the next 6 to 12 months. I want the spotlight on you, man. Like what is something that you're really happy that you guys have been able to accomplish, and then even future goals that you are just say on track, even way above track on that. Share us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we just got awarded again, one of the fastest growing companies in Oregon. So that feels good. I think our win rate is far above our colleagues. And I think there's a lot of agencies that are struggling right now. So many that have, and I mean, knock on wood, there's some amazing talent out there that they've closed their doors. And I think some people have had just different forces that have hit them as to why, but I think we're doing really good. I'm grateful every single day. I'm grateful for the team that we've cultivated. I'm grateful for the clientele that continues to invest in us. I love the impact work that we do. I love the government work that we do. I love the diversity of, B2C and the consumer goods and B2B work. That's just been incredible. But I think milestones as I look at agencies, like right now we're operationally, it's just been like we've had milestones in the past where like, oh cool, totally got a brick in the foundation. The business is so much stronger because of that. Right now, we're going through that right now, but from an internal perspective, that will really make things more profitable and more streamlined and stop the headaches, as well as, hopefully we can pass those savings down to, some of the projects we want to work on that we normally have to say no to. But I think one of the major milestones is stepping back in September this last year, we relaunched our website, which we hadn't launched for 7 years prior to that. And for about 18 months leading up to that, which is interesting to think about, like the first 5 years of the business, like I didn't really have a website. It was a handshake. And then I got a website. And then, the cobbler's kids never have any shoes type of idea. We never had a chance for 7 more years to redo our website. Finally, we did. And 18 months prior to that, we started the design of it and getting everything dialed in. But then we spent really a year organizing our portfolio, writing our portfolio. And we've got about 400 case studies on our site, which seems insane. But in the world of AI, knowing how that is going to be looking for angles to make a suggestion or recommendation of your company and to help us truly be authorities in the categories of business that we do have authority in, it was needed that we write those case studies. We develop the visuals and organize everything from the website to our pitch decks to printed material. I still very much believe in print, and just getting all of that stuff streamlined to now when we have like an RFP or a pitch we're going for. I co-pilot that stuff with our director of accounts and growth, Mike, and he and I can tag team like a pretty meaty RFP and have it into a good draft stage within like 2 hours. And that's because we got all the tools like just dialed in with our point of view on the category, our point of view on the work, our category experience nailed out, our resumes nailed out. And, obviously then it goes through rounds of review across the team, making sure we feel good about the price, we feel good about the offering, that we're really coming with that strong angle. But the speed at which we're able to make the case as to why we're potentially a fit, it leaves so much more room for us to really be evaluating the work versus chasing the work. And when I say evaluating the work, we're evaluating the people that we could potentially be working with. Are they a good culture fit for us? As much as they're interviewing us, we're interviewing them.
Mhm.
Does the project fit our core values? Can we toss up their core values and our core values? And do we see a mesh there? Is it a project that's going to move the studio, move the needle with inside the company, something that we want to plant our flag and be really proud of? Or is it more of a revenue play, or is it more of a diversification of the work, or is it a cause related impact work or something like that? So being able to address that stuff instead of like spending so much time building out a deck for a pitch or creating a web page specific for that approach, like all the stuff is done and there. And now we've got a system. When we're done with a project, it gets codified into a system that we believe has longevity, for the next 7 to 10 years, that it will still look good and fresh and relevant and tell that story as we continue to build out the book of work.
Oh, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. I love hearing all that. I really do. And seriously, man, congratulations. I really, I mean, I feel like you guys are just really crushing it and not necessarily just even maintaining, but you guys are truly on a trajectory up. I mean, there might be some, little, not even say down moves. It's like maybe a little hiccup. I mean, for example, the war going on right now, or like
Yep.
COVID happening. Like those are things that are out of your control. But so Matt, with everything that you said, again, even from the start of this podcast and until now, one thing I do like to end with and really make sure that our audience can really, take your experience and all that good stuff, with themselves, and they can really take it to heart as they pursue their own dreams. Now, a little bit about this, we really want to target those that are, they're, maybe they just have like an idea, they just don't know how to get it going. Or they're in the mud. They're in the thick of things and they are taking 5 steps forward and all of a sudden they're taking 8 steps back. So
Yep.
there's a gap, right? They're net negative right now. So can you share with us and leave us with some piece of advice that you can leave with them experience? What would be like one solid piece of advice for our audience to take away from this as they do listen and watch this podcast?
Yeah. I think if you're looking to create a business that is going to make you millions and that you're focused on the money and revenue, and I've seen this, I think people fold their cards as soon as they see the undulation of a market. If you're in it because you're passionate about it and that it brings meaning to your life and that it moves you, and you believe in the work you're doing, I think that's the type of stuff where I see the businesses succeed. So if you're in it for materialistic reasons, I don't believe that. I believe your chances are less to be highly successful. And the same token, if you're just in it for a passion project, I think that you may not be thinking big enough either. So I think my advice and my own personal experience is that I love what I do. I love my clients. I love my team, and I love what it's able to do for my family. I love the experiences that we get to have that I couldn't have anywhere else, and that motivates me through the hard times. So I would challenge that there's got to be some deeper purpose into why you're doing the business. And then I also think you need to realize that it needs to be a business. You need to scale past yourself so that the business can operate without you and you can have a good quality of life. But I don't think that there's any way of getting there without going through the maturation of becoming a true entrepreneur.
I like that. I like that a lot. Yeah, I mean, for all those that are listening in on this, I mean, I really would take what he said, really too hard. Because if you are in it for the wrong reasons, if you do just want to make a quick buck, if you're just trying to make $1 million, there is a chance. By all means, you could hit that quick lick, but the fact is like I think that, and we both think that it's just not that's not really the best reason for it. So really, take some time to really dive into your why. Your why should be driving you every single day. Um, and appreciate that, man. I like that advice, and that's one thing. Like I even tell myself it's like you know if you're doing this just for the money, if you're doing this just for one certain thing, it's like, I mean, sure, it can come, it could come, but the bigger reason that you guys really think bigger, kind of more honestly, more things outside of yourself. The world doesn't revolve around you, right? And when you think about your why, when you think about your family, when you think about the opportunities and the experiences to be able to have, I do believe, just like what you said, I do believe that that gives you such a bigger passion, bigger excitement to be able to wake up every day and to tackle it. Even though you might be in a rough patch,
Yep.
it might be in a rough patch, but it's still excitement to be able to really get up and take on the challenges that are ahead. So yeah, thank you, Matt, for that. And seriously, man, thank you so much for your time. I mean, really, like I'm excited to see what you guys are able to accomplish on year 15, year 20. And really like being around for 13 years and growing and having real, like I said, that steady equity curve up. I mean, that's not a lot of businesses make it past 5 years. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I'm that,
Well, 1 year.
or even 1 year. Yeah, even 1 year. But seriously, Matt, thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you so much for everything that you shared with us, and also for our viewers, listeners on for this podcast. Make sure to check the description. If you ever need to reach out to Matt, his company, for whatever, any consultation or, anything that you really need for your own business, feel free to reach out to them. Everything's in the description below. And, you'll be able to easily, access his work, see what he's been doing. And then also maybe you can be a potential client for him. But Matt, I really do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for, everything that you share with us. And for those also that want to be featured on the next Fix My Fees podcast, if you are listening to this and you think that like, hey, my business is really making an impactful, change in this world, change in my community. It's like, you know what? I really think that I want to be able to get my word out there. Reach out to us. We have all our social media links right there. Reach out to us to be featured on the next podcast. We like to spotlight all incredible business owners and entrepreneurs, making great big impacts in their industries and also in their communities. And yeah, like I said, Matt, I really am grateful for this time and thank you so much as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
See you guys on the next episode.